Hi, let's have a look at front running or at front running bots. What is it? What kind of impact does it have on your potential trading? And how could you potentially write a front running bot yourself? Because front running is a profitable strategy in crypto. And so you want to at least understand the concept behind this so you don't become the prophet of somebody else's bot. Now let's have a look at a transaction history of a relatively illiquid asset over here. So we can see usually the transaction sizes here, they are relatively small, right? It's like a few hundred, maybe $1,000. But then when you go through this, what you notice, there's one really large transaction that happened for 40,000 US, then a few smallish transactions in between, and then again a sell order of a similar size. And this happened within the same second. So this looks funny, right? How is it possible that this person bought cheaper than they sold within the same second? And why did they do that with that much money? So this is a front running transaction. And what we can do is, let me zoom out here a little bit. The numbers get a bit smaller, but still we can see the transactions over here. So we can go into the details, and when we check the buy order and the sell order, we can see this happened even within the same block. So this is the Binance Smart Chain, which does have relatively quick blocks, right? One block is created every 3 seconds or so. So this is the block ending with 82 for buying for 40,000 US. And here we've got the selling for 40,000 US and $23 in exactly the same block, 82. So the only difference here is the position within the block. So look at this. The buying order got executed at position 18 within the block, and the selling order got executed at position 85. Now, when we look at the transaction in between those two, so the larger of those transactions, we've got one for 500 US, and that transaction got executed at position 61. So basically in between the buying and the selling order. So this was a front run transaction of this $500 trade. Now, in order to do front running, you need to know of upcoming transactions. You need to buy cheaply before, wait for the, for example, buying transaction to happen, and then sell afterwards for the higher price. And so why did this front run bot chase this specific transaction here? This is just 500 US dollars, right? Why didn't it pick, say, this transaction over here for $1,200? That's because when we look at the inputs of this $500 transaction, what we see is $500 are being put into the swap, but the minimum amount out is only $390. So the swap of this transaction here happened with a lot of slippage. So when you go to, say, SushiSwap and you buy something, right? You put in your amount to buy something, you can set a slippage value over here, which basically determines how much do you want to get as per minimum out of this transaction, because the price can move, right? Between you buying or you submitting the order and you actually getting your tokens. This doesn't happen instantly, right? It happens once your block gets confirmed. And so the price movements that happen between submission and actual execution of your order, this can happen against your favor. And this is the maximum pain you allow yourself to endure, right? When you put in a high slippage value, say in this case, in the $500 transaction, it was 25%, because you put in $500, but you're still okay to only get back $400. In that case, you've got high slippage, and in that case, you open up the doors for those front running bots. And so this is simply what they do. They put in really large amounts and basically make safe profits because they buy and sell within the same block. And when you look at the transaction history of this token, so when we zoom in over here, we can see these kind of trading volumes, they are very abnormal, right? This is very hard to see, but that's unfortunately the situation here with Dex Screener. Anyway, simply just believe this. This is a pretty high transaction value of like 80K US dollars in a single minute. This is not what usually happens for this particular asset. And so how do those front running bots know about this? How do they know that a transaction with high slippage might be submitted, that they could potentially front run? That's because of the mempool. So you submit a transaction to the blockchain and it doesn't directly get processed, right? It gets processed based on how much gas you're willing to pay. And so what these front run bots do is they scan through all the transactions in the mempool. They look at the transactions with high slippage and then they simply submit their buying order with a higher gas tipping. So they're willing to pay more for the transactions, and thus their buying order gets executed for you, and then they sell after your transactions, or probably they set the gas price or the gas tipping price below what you have submitted. That's conceptually how this works. And if you're wondering how much money are these front-running bots doing, it's quite impressive. So you can simply look at this, you can look at the contract, and in here we've got 80,000, and this is basically a money printing machine. So look at the number of transactions this bot is doing. Each of those transactions is making money. And look at this, this is 128,000 transactions. So conceptually, at least, you get now an idea how this works. You could, in theory, build this yourself, right? There's quite a bit of skills required behind this, right? You need quick access to the mempool. So probably you need to run your own BSC node, which you can relatively easily set up, but still, you need very quick access. Then you need to build the logic around this, right? To determine what is large enough of a slippage within the mempool that you can exploit. So you have to kind of calculate your expected profit from a trade. You have to reduce this profit with the potential gas fees that you have to pay. So there's a bit of complexity in this involved, but the general idea is relatively straightforward. If you're willing to go through all of this, right, that is not easy to do, but it's possible, right? If you're willing to go through all of this, you're potentially having a money machine here at hand, a money printing machine. Now, how can you protect yourself from all of this? The answer is pretty straightforward. Simply have relatively low slippage tolerance. But there is a certain trade-off, right? If you do the slippage too low, then the price might genuinely move during that time and your transaction might get rolled back. And depending on the blockchain you use, this might also cost quite a bit of money. So there's a trade-off to be made. Don't put in 25% of slippage, but also don't put in 0.01% of slippage. And that's why some of the DEXs, so for example, SushiSwap, it warns you about this front running. So when you put in a very high number here, you see the transaction may be front run. So that's exactly the kind of mechanism I just showed you. SushiSwap even warns you about this when you only put in 2%. So this is how potentially effective these bots are. This is dependent on the amount you put in though, right? Because in the end, if you trade relatively low amounts, then those front run bots are not really profitable because they also have to pay the gas fee. But the higher you go with your amounts, the tighter you have to be with your slippage. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give this a like. It will help the channel grow. And of course, feel free to subscribe as well. I publish videos regularly. You might also want to check out the premium membership. There's a private chat where you can ask me any questions, and there's also exclusive premium content. We've also got a public Telegram group. Simply search for that, Bitcoin Strategy Channel, within the Telegram app. See you next time. Bye-bye.